Hi, my name is Eduardo de Oliveira. I'm a combat veteran. I'm here as a part of the Family Church Youth Director for the Brazilian community. My journey started when I was very young. I was 7 years old when I was introduced into the church. I was brought into an Assembly of God church with my mother because that's where she found God, where she found Christ. My father had abandoned me and my brother at such an early age, and my mother ran to Christ. Thank God for that. I was raised in an Assembly of God church, and at the age of 9, I was baptized with the Holy Spirit. At 14 years of age, I was baptized in the waters. And ever since then, I've been a part of the church until I was 21 years old. We had a little slip up. I backslided a little bit from church, and I had about 2.5 years of where I struggled in my relationship with Christ. And instead of running towards him, I ran away from him. And today, I am married with 2 kids, and I'm with Christ, living, loving, and serving Christ happier than ever. So as I mentioned, when I was 21 years old, I backslided. Well, it actually started a little bit before that. It's just I didn't consider that I backslided from church. See, in reality, I was already starting to not do what I normally did with church and my prayer, my daily reading, devotionals, and so on and so forth. But 21, I was away on military duty, and that's exactly what propelled me to backslide in the first place. I felt that God had abandoned me. I felt my family wasn't really in tune. My mother was back in Brazil, and I had finished my relationship. Everything that possibly should be going right was going wrong. I left my apartment that I had in Queens, New York at the time, and went to a military training down in Fort Gordon, Georgia. And everything that I've learned in the Bible not to do, I started to do. Started drinking heavily, which is a family trait of mine from my father's side and on my mother's side. And it's something that, thank God, today I don't have an issue with. But back then, that was the first thing I dove into. And then the second thing was having sex out of wedlock. Every opportunity, every woman that I had a chance to, especially in being in the South, and you're a Northerner, oh, you from New York? Oh my God, you say coffee? So everything was just a little bit different, you know what I mean? And it felt like they were flocking, and at the moment, the pleasures felt great. And I was loving it. But in reality, when I laid my head in a pillow, I always felt an emptiness inside, and I always fought against it because I'm like, oh, this is what it really is. That journey, thank God, it only lasted about 2.5 years, because I met a friend who today is a very good friend of mine. In reality, we were both separated as deacons in a Baptist church that's more renewed Baptist church, more half and half. I would say half and half Baptist, half Pentecostal kind of church, where we both got anointed as deacons. We were separated together, and he's the reason why I came back to church, because he would invite me. We would have long talks at night. We would talk about all different types of things, and he would confront me at times. And obviously I would push back. But eventually one day he called me to a prayer, and I was like, man, whatever, let's go. I'm not doing nothing. So I went, and I remember this day like yesterday. I went, I kneeled down, I put my head down. I'm pretty sure I snored too, but I went to sleep. But I remember waking up, and there was about like 10 minutes left of prayer. And I prayed, and I said, God, this can't be it. This can't be what you have for me. I feel empty inside. I feel like you abandoned me. And that's when he filled me with the Spirit. And he told me, my son, I've never abandoned you. You walked away from me, but I'm here with open arms for you to come back to me. And we got up, we did a prayer. And that day, there was supposed to be about 10, 15 people there in that prayer session. There was only 4 people, myself and 3 others. And I gave myself back to Christ. And I remember I had a pack of cigarettes in my jacket. And I said, Pastor, if I'm going to come back to Christ, I got to come back right. I can't come back with things pending and holding me back. I opened up my jacket. I pulled out my pack of cigarettes. And I said, here you go. If I'm going to be back in Christ, I need to be 100%. If Christ loved me the way I was, even though I was messing up, now I got to make up for it. And he took that pack of cigarettes, he crushed it, he said, you're making the best decision in your life. And ever since then, it's just been, I would like to say glory upon glory above glory, but beyond glory. But there's always a couple of, fights here and there that you got to manage. But it's been a blessing. And I can't say I've never been happier, because now I'm back with Christ, with my family. And now my kids are living what I didn't live. They're able to be raised with Christ. So throughout my journey, I had a lot of friends and family that helped support through my ministry. Honestly, for many years in church, I've helped out with worship. I helped out with opening services in smaller churches. I've helped out with even the treasury of the church. I've done it all. But the two most supportive people that I can honestly say have been my wife and my mom. Yes, my brother as well, my sister-in-law, but the two most supportive people have been my mom and my wife. And obviously my friend who helped me bring back to Christ, who I can call and tell, listen, I'm having this problem, help me. And he'll give me advice. But my wife, beyond all, has been the one that's always prayed and give me words of encouragement. Sometimes also telling me some truths that I don't want to hear, which is great. Even though I don't like it. So please, babe, if you're watching this, just tone it down a little bit, okay? I appreciate it. But thank you. And I thank God for my wife. I thank God for my family, my mother, my brother, everybody, my friends. Because throughout, when I came back from Christ until now, there have been instances, and I'm pretty sure like everybody else, were moments where I felt like I wanted just to quit. Moments that I wasn't going to be able to go on or to pursue further what I wanted to do or what I was helping in at. But my wife and my mom, constant prayer. There's times where she'll call me, she'll be like, Eduardo, can I just pray for you? And she would pray. I'm working or something, I'm listening to her on my AirPod while I'm on a train or while I'm going to work or while I'm at work. Even being a cop in New York for 5 years, she would call me. I'm like, Mom, I'm about to, I see a guy, I have to make a stop right now. I call you back. And there's been times where she's like, okay, I'm praying for you. God bless you. Bye, and hang up. Just that spiritual protection that my mom gave me was a great help. My wife always encouraging me, and especially coming down here to Florida was a big step. When I told her, I said, babe, let's move to Florida. Oh my God, I felt like years was lifted off of her back, because this honestly has helped us in our journey, working together in a community where we can help serve and help other people encounter Christ. So I'm thankful for my wife, my mom, my good friend, Pastor Wonderson, and my other family, my brother, my sister-in-law, and so on and so forth. I served the military for 10 and a half years. I did about a year of tour in combat out in Afghanistan. My job was communications. So when we went out there, we were stationed in Kandahar, and we was pretty much in charge of the entire southeastern part of communications. So every month we had to do change of certain things, so on and so forth. I can't get too much into detail. However, my group was part of the group that was in charge of making sure that our communications never went down. We had redundancy, like 2-3 systems of redundancy over and over. In the case of one failed, we had others to back up. But that 1 year there was not easy. Obviously, you're in combat, right? When I first got there, I remember my first night, we had a AC-130 flying over, giving air support for one, and we could just hear boom, the bombs going off, and that was very, 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 very scary. However, I had to look and say, guys, we're in combat. This is not a game anymore. I was a 23-year-old sergeant in charge of a group of kids that went with me. I remember until this day, one mom came back and said, listen, you're in charge of my baby. Please bring my baby back home. And that was tough. And to have that burden on my back at the age of 23 was even harder. And I needed to rely on Christ. The good thing was in Afghanistan, where I was in Kandahar, we actually had a church where we built a tent that fit about 200 people. And we had multiple services also during the week, kind of like small groups. But it was services during the week in case you couldn't make it on Sundays. Or if you was out on a mission, you can come during the week. But I was able to make it every Sunday morning. And that was like a refuge for me. But just because I was in combat didn't mean I didn't struggle. It's not something that I share very often, but I'm going to share it here because it might help somebody. I went through a moment of struggle. For about 2-3 weeks, I struggled even with some suicidal thoughts. And that's not easy to say because you're away from family, you're away from friends, and sometimes you think your only way out is just the easy way out. And it's never the right decision. Suicide is not something that helps you and helps your family. As a matter of fact, it may be the coward's way out. But I thought that. And some other people in the Bible had the same situation where they were like, God, just take me. Take me because I don't want to live anymore. And I had that moment there. And I remember, and I said, God, you've brought me through so many things. Why am I feeling this way? I've never felt this way before. I've never had this moment or this moment of weakness in my life. God, help me. And I realized it was just all me. I was putting a burden on me that I didn't have to. When God says, lay all your burden on me and I will take care of it. And instead of me trying to take my burden like I was doing, I should have just gave it to Christ. And the moment I realized, I said, God, I'm holding a burden that I can't carry, and I gave it back to Christ. It went away. My struggles went away. And I was able to help some people there that were struggling with the same exact thing. Sometimes combat will make you do crazy things. And sometimes extra things from back home. People had marriages that were failing. People had family. I had some soldiers of mine that lost their homes when Sandy hit back in 2013. And they were going through all these struggles. And I was able to help them because God showed me the way out. And I was able to show them. Wasn't only that, I had other moments where I thought I was going to die because bombs were coming in. And I remember one time I texted my pastor. I said, please, Pastor, pray. Bombs are landing. And they were just getting closer and closer and closer. And I said, it feels like the next one is going to land on me. And the moment I sent that text, he read it. He was at the service on Sunday night. And he stopped the whole service, says, we need to pray for Eduardo. I just got a text from him saying that they're getting bombed and he needs our prayer. And as soon as I shot that text, a bomb landed. The next one, it sounded like it was going to come in and then it stopped. The power of prayer has a great deal. And those were the two moments while I was in Afghanistan that showed me that my struggle needs to be together with my prayer. Because I can't do it by myself. I can't carry the weight of the world and the sins on my shoulders. Christ did that for me already. He died on the cross so that I don't have to carry my own weight. I can lay it on him and he will carry me on. After I came back, I did struggle a little bit as well. I wouldn't say I have a full-blown PTSD, but I do have sometimes flashbacks of certain things that happened when I was over there. And you know, it's just a struggle that sometimes I have to deal with on my own. But I know I'm never by myself. I pray and I ask God all the time to help me. And he's helped me a lot. I remember one time when I came back, I was working construction on the 5th floor. And I was helping a friend of mine and I'm holding the pipe. I was doing plumbing. And a garbage truck drove by. And it hit a hole. But it just echoed a huge noise. It went boom! And that noise immediately made me jump to the ground around the beam that I saw. And I curled up and covered my head. 10 seconds later, I realized my friend is laughing at me. And I had to laugh too. It was kind of funny, but I realized that certain things in my life, they're going to follow with me. But I have to depend on Christ to help me get through everything. Today, I don't have that issue. I can hear a loud noise and be like, okay, that was just a garbage truck. I can hear a bang. I'm like, okay, I just drove by a firing range. I'm okay. Some of those things changed for me. And thank God today I don't suffer as much as I used to when I first got out. So my advice for you is very simple. Be patient in the process. Sanctification doesn't come easy. I'm going to turn 35 years of age this year, thank God. I lived 34 years of my life. If I accepted Christ today, tomorrow I won't be perfect. But I've accepted Christ for many years and I still have the process of sanctification, getting closer and closer to Christ, to try to be like Christ. Be patient. You're not going to change overnight. Some habits will, some habits won't. Some you're going to need extra help. Don't be scared to ask for the help. We all need help at one point. I struggled at one point. And like I've mentioned before, I have a friend that when I struggle now, I can run to and ask him. A good friend of mine. Maybe you have a good friend. Maybe you have a pastor. Maybe you have your wife, your husband. But there's always someone you can go to that's going to help you in that process. And above everybody else, there's always Christ. Your two knees and your voice to Christ, asking you for that to help in that process. It won't be easy, but trust the process. Be patient. Know that. And the second thing is just boundaries. Knowing your limits and your limitations. How can you show love and be loving to somebody, but yet set a limit? How can I be close to somebody and yet be far? How I can set boundaries that are going to help me spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. We got to remember that we don't inherit boundaries, we build them. And if that's the case, you have to build nice and comfortable boundaries for you to grow, not only spiritually in Christ, but for your own well-being. So trust the process and create good boundaries. And always, always remember, Christ first.